We're going to focus on 6 chords, suspended chords, and extended chords. These chord structures actually lend themselves perfectly to film, television, video games, and other media pieces. Now let's go over what they do. The major minor sixth is an interval that's 4 notes. It's played in a block or an arpeggio form, very similar to the 7th interval or 7th degree interval. Very similar to the triad, we're going to simply add our interval to the 1-3-5 chord. And in this case, we're going to a minor sixth, which is C, D sharp, E flat, G, G sharp, which is 1, 3, 5, 6 in our diagram. It's a step below the 7th degree. That's all we're doing here. Here's a minor sixth in block form. C is 1, D sharp is 3, G4 is 5, and G sharp 4, which is A flat, is 6. And this is very interesting. When we go into our FLP project, you'll be able to listen to the uneasiness that this particular chord brings. Suspended chords, 6 chords, extended chords can really breed a lot of tension in pieces. And that's why they're so great within dramatic pieces, because there is a need to resolve musically, but there's no way to really do it effectively. And that's what makes 6 chords, suspended chords, and extended chords so great, is that they create a natural uneasiness for all intents and purposes. Now we're going to suspended chords. Suspended chords remove the major or minor from a triad and replace it with the 2nd or 4th interval. So the 3rd degree, which is our median, is completely removed. In this scenario, we have a C minor triad, but we are turning it into a suspended triad, or what is commonly called a sus2. In this case, we're going to 1, 2, 5 instead of 1, 3, 5. We're just going down a half step to our 2nd interval. And here's the C minor sus2 and the standard block formation. This is the C minor sus2 in arpeggio form. Now we're going to the sus4, or suspended 4th. And instead of having our 2nd interval highlighted, we're going to the 4th interval, and we're still removing the triad. And the designation will be 1, 4, 5 in this case. This is the C minor sus4 in our block form. C is always taking the root position, and 4, in this case, is taking the suspended position, or replacing the median position. And this is the arpeggio form of the sus4. Very interesting sound. We'll go into it when we get to our FL project. Now we have our extended chords. Extended chords tend to span across 2 octaves and are divided to 3 categories. Ninths, which are suspended seconds at an octave higher, 11ths, which are simply suspended 4th at an octave higher, and 13ths, which are 6ths at an octave higher. And let's look at the formula. So we have our essentially a C minor chord. We're going to go with a C minor 9. We already have our first 4 notes, which create a C minor 7th, and then we're doing some addition here. 2 steps or 2 intervals, we get a C minor 9. Now we're going to add on to the C minor 9. We have a C minor 11th, and we have the F highlighted. And then we already have our C minor 11th with a C minor 13th. Here's a C minor ninth in the block form. It's a pretty large chord, but this is going to be very appropriate because we're going to be dealing with multiple voicings when we do our production projects. This is the C minor ninth in block form. We have our root 1, and all of our intervals are being played. Ascending pattern from our 3, 5, 7, and then downward from our 3, 9, 7, and 5. Creates a very dynamic effect, very, very powerful. And as again, we're building up this chord even into a greater structure, C minor 11th. This is going to be quite common in our production files, the 11th degree, simply because we're going to have our notes expanded across multiple octaves. And you can't compress these notes, or you can't really contain these notes to being within one octave. It will give the arrangement a muddy sound. So we have to really extend many of our structures to the 11th and 13th degrees simply because of the way that the pieces are going to have to be composed. This is the C minor 11th in block form. This is the C minor 13th in block form. And this is going to be quite common as we go forward. Large chord structures that span almost 2 octaves. And now we have even a greater visualization of an upward pattern, and then we have a downward pattern, ascending, descending, classic call response method within just one chord. Now, we have diminished and augmented chords. Our diminished chords are used to lower or raise an interval within a chord structure. A change occurs frequently at the 5th interval and into the extended chord family. The diminished chord lowers a chord structure by a half step, while the augmented chord raises a chord structure by a half step. This is an augmented C minor triad, and this converts the chord from your standard C minor chord to C, E flat, D sharp, and G sharp. That augments the chord and makes it sound more upbeat. Now the diminished chord reduces the interval at the 5th degree by a half step. So we're taking our C minor chord and converting it to C, E flat, D sharp to F sharp, which gives it a more serious tone.